Welcome, YouTube. My name is Jude.
And I am Antoine de Miller.
Today's topic is what are the key components of being a good father? I have a list and I'd like to share it with you. You could add on here, you could take away on here. It's up to you. But here what I got. First, I got provider. We all know what that is. Protector, leader, encouragement, humorous, and emotional available, which could be emotional intelligence. Is there anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I like your list. The only thing I'll add on to that list, I especially like the protector, provider. I'll also add, so for me, I look at being a father with the same principles of the patriarchal system, right?
Hmm.
It's acquiring resources, using those resources to build, provide, protect, just as your list stated. And patriarchal system, to me, falls in line with being a father and teaching your sons how to be a father within the patriarchal system.
Hmm. That's interesting. So, when you say the patriarchal system, you basically mean like the man running the household.
Yeah, it starts and ends with the father, with the husband, the head of the household.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, my next question I'd ask you then is this: being in the patriarchal system, how can your son relay that to a female, especially an independent female, that this is a system that he's trying to have in his family if she want to start a family with him?
Well, the patriarchal system, some also calls it the traditional way, right? The
Mm-hmm.
traditional man, traditional woman. If a woman wants to be a non-traditional, or as they call it, the modern woman, that's that's not for my son. At least that's how I view it.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, could be right. But if you have a traditional man and a modern woman, you're gonna put heads, right? Because the traditional man wants his woman at home, the kids, homeschooling, whatever it is. The modern woman, the fully modern woman, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
know, she wants to be in that role as the protector provider.
Gotcha.
Right? So,
Now,
so I may steer him away from that. So if he's a traditional man, I'm going to recommend or suggest or guide him towards looking for a traditional woman.
gotcha. So, in other words, he had to learn that from you based on what you do in your household. Now, the question gonna be is, can young men or men today can they learn those principles just by observing what other people doing, or is that something where, for example, based on what you're saying, do we think the sitcom shows like the Bill Cosby show, right? And what's the other one? Family Matters.
Yep.
Do those run in the same arc that you're talking about? Because those women on there did show some type of independence in there, but they was very supportive to their husband.
And that's the key part right there. Supportive to the husband and recognition of who is the head of the household. Right? 'Cause
Mm,
in today's economy, a lot of homes it takes a two income to run the home, right? And that's not the man's fault. That's not the woman's fault. That's just the way the economy and the government is guiding the economy. But even if the woman is working, that does not mean she is a modern woman. You can still be
mm,
a traditional man, traditional woman who is working.
mm. Okay, okay. So how can outside men? When I mean by outside men, I mean, for example, of people who haven't grown up with a father. Because I ain't gonna lie, I do feel like some people use that excuse a lot. Like, I didn't have a father in my life, so therefore I don't know what to do to be a father. And I ain't gonna say I'm one of them because I didn't have a father active in my life, but I still learn by other people seeing what I like and seeing what I didn't like. Of course, there's some ups and downs and left and rights, but I learned by experience because there's no book on how to be a father. And if there was, not many of us would read it. And number two, each kid is different.
Yep.
And even though I give that list out like that, uh, you have to approach each list differently. Depends on your child or what you got going on in your household. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I agree with that. But so here's my thing. You can use that excuse, up until you're 25. You may
Mm,
get away with it in your late 20s, but there has to come a point in time where you have to look at other sources to learn how to be a father. Right? You can look at your own father, whether your father is present or not, and learn from that.
mm-hmm.
Meaning, I want to be like that, or I don't want to be like that, and correct it with your own principles. Right? Uh, there is too much examples of what a good father and what a bad father is in the world today for you to be in your 30s and still say no one ever taught me how to be a good father.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely 100% agree with that. And one thing about being a father is also I had to put in there, I didn't put in there that need to be in there is being present.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't just think just providing financially, being that provider is all they need to do. No, you need to be present from zero all the way to the end of time.
To your death. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't think a lot of fathers do that because, well, there's a list, but at the same time, I don't want to say this list is an excuse because at the end of the day, you have to prioritize your time. And most time, men are not in the household because they have to work.
Yep.
Especially if you're a truck driver, you're always out on the road. But now with technology today, man, you pick up a phone, video chat, and try to be there every weekend or every other week or however way you got to fix it. But you got to be there. You got to be present.
And key to that, and just want to add on to that also is having a good wife in the household that's going to have your back when you're not present. That's not going to badmouth you to the kids. That's going to paint that negative picture of you to the kids, but she's going to have your back when you're out providing and protecting for the family.
Okay. Now, how we do that on the opposite end, where you're not with the wife, you're a baby daddy. How does it work out in that situation? Do you have an answer for that, or
Well, you've got to understand that when you're separating from the woman, you're just separating from the woman. You're not separating from the woman and the kid. Right?
yes?
So you have to have that mindset. So you still got to be present. Of course, you're not going to be present from the perspective of in the home, but you still got to show up. Show up to games, show up to plays, recitals.
Oh,
Have dates where you show up, take the kids out, y'all go hang out. Make sure you get proper visitation where they're sleeping over at your house, so you can instill some of these principles, right? So, is it going to be a little bit more tougher? Are you going to be spread thin as far as your time? But yes, but it's still something you have to do.
also to add on to that too, man, is be present for the school.
Of course.
Man, I mean, there's something to think about that. Even just as a parent, kids go to schools. Kids be in school, what, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and they learn more stuff from their friends than it is from their own parents. And I think a lot of parents are afraid to touch on certain things because they may feel as if their child is not responsible. But is it that the the parent's not responsible to have certain conversations. And what I mean by that is when kids go to school, teachers going to teach them. They're going to teach them certain subjects. You as a parent have to teach them life lessons
Yeah.
outside of school, but also help within the school because make sure you follow up on their homework and stuff like that. And you might not know everything, but like you said, by being present and being there and giving them the resources and tools to be successful, that's what it's all about. And with that being said, here's my question to you: is being the father, and when you had the way you grew up, you don't want your kids to grow up the way you grew up. So the question I need to ask you is, do you have a balance for that, or do you just don't let them see everything you experience and let them see something that you want them to see? Project something out there that you want them to see.
So my experience, my background is similar to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Father was not completely in my life. Right? We had a lot of in and outs. Uh, Growing up, primarily with my mother. Right? And
Same.
I do want my kids to be aware of it. I don't want them to experience it, but just be aware of it
Mm.
and be aware of what led to that situation. So they can see the signs and not go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I made. They can learn from my mistakes, right? And because kids are the better versions of us, they're to be the 2.0, so to speak, the updated version of us, especially firstborn sons and their fathers.
Mm-hmm.
So that balance is being aware of the negative upbringing, and I'll call it negative. Some may not, but I'll call it negative,
Mm-hmm.
but not experiencing it themselves.
Now, I'm glad you said that about experience what you went through. Now the question is, when do you have that conversation with them when they already, I guess, um, I guess the best way to say it is, if they're in trouble about something and you got in trouble about that before, that's when you have the conversation, or you try to give them a forewarning. You know what? When I was in middle school, this is what I was thinking. This is what I wanted to do, but come to find out it wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm trying to advise you now, for you won't make the same mistake I did because I got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Is that something that's prerequisite lessons, or that's something that when that child get in trouble, that's when the lesson come?
You're not going to like this, but I would say it depends,
Mm.
right? There are some topics, some conversations that you're going to leave for when they reach a certain age. But there are other topics or conversations that you can have organically. If you're driving in a car with your kid and he says something, it may spark the conversation. You have it right there and then. If he's in school and he's exhibiting certain behavior, you have the conversation there when he gets home or in a car ride home. So a lot of the conversations can occur organically when they ask questions or when they're acting a certain way. But then there's certain conversations like sex, it's when they're much older. When I say older, I mean like maybe 13,
That's
13
yeah.
or older, but not 5 or 6 or something like that.
But you know what? The other part about that, also about being a father or being a parent, is how do you become or let your child know that they're emotionally available to have conversations like that? Because I mean, growing up, I knew me growing up, I got some spankings, but I got some spankings to a certain point where I got tired of being spanked. I'm like, you know what? I had enough. But that was very young, like around maybe 7, maybe 6, 7. I was done having spankings. All right, mom, you the woman. Tell what I need to do. I got fussed at, but I didn't get some more spankings. I got tired of it. But there's many different types of discipline. And what I'm getting to is each kid is different. Some people might say, hey, you don't spank your kid, you don't whoop your kids, emotionally trauma, stuff like that. That may be true, maybe not. But I think there's levels to it.
Agreed.
First level is you have a good conversation. Hey, don't do that, blah, 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 blah. Next one is you let them know with a firm voice, or you take something away. What if that don't work? Then what's the next level? I guess level 3. What? You threaten to spank them, but if you threaten, you better draw that line in the sand, because if you don't
You gotta follow through.
act on it, yeah, you don't follow through. They ain't know you're serious or not. Then there's a part of the spanking. But I ain't gonna lie, my mom, and maybe your mom too, we didn't get 4 levels. We got 2.
Yeah,
Maybe not even 2. We got 1. And that was it.
it goes from you behaving bad to spanking real quick.
Exactly, from 0 to 100. But I guess as a father, that discipline side of it, is there a difference between disciplining males compared to disciplining females?
I think so. Uh,
Hmm.
Whether it's fair or not, you look at your sons as someone who's going to have the weight of the shoulders, or the weight of the your family, the world on their shoulders at some point, right? And your
Hmm.
daughters, you're not looking at your daughters that way. I always say that sons carry on their father's legacy, daughters help to carry on the legacy of their husband's father,
Hmm.
right? So my sons are going to carry on my legacy. My daughter is going to add to somebody else's legacy that I'm going to essentially team up with or partner with, right? Because we have something in common, which will be the grandkids. But yeah, I look at it differently. I treat them differently. Things that I allow my daughter to get away with, I don't allow my sons to get away with.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there still has to be a teacher moment, even for your daughters. Still has to be a teacher moment of how she should act and how she should carry herself. So you're not ignoring all of the bad behaviors of your daughter. You still have to ensure that she carries herself in a traditional manner.
Yeah, understood. Understood. Now, the other part of being a father is being a protector. And as I said previously, you can't protect them from everything. But I also look at being a protector is allow them to make mistakes in the household, because the world is going to be a lot more crucial.
Yeah,
And that's the way I look at it. And being protected goes so many ways, as in also protecting your family from outside sources. But um, they still got to learn from their mistakes too, being out there in the outside sources.
absolutely. And what's key for fathers is them having someone in the home to come back and talk about it
Mm,
and help guide them through that mistake and help
mm.
them to recover from it. And same thing with your daughters. Back in the days, when daughters got pregnant, everyone just used kind of, she basically had to stop going to school, which was the wrong thing to do because, it made it worse,
Yes,
right? So a lot of times they didn't have someone to talk to. So being that person at home for them to talk to, and you help them guide them through whatever the mistake is or the bad behavior is key. That recovery
gotcha,
is key.
gotcha. All right, the provider part. How do we talk about that? Address that. In my opinion, provider can be many different ways. Most of it is financially wise, but also to me, provider can be uh,
So providing, like you state, it's resource, right? It's providing sufficient resource or not only for your immediate family, but for your future generations, right? It's about laying that. For me, it's about my goal is to lay that foundation for others to build off of,
Hmm.
right? When we were coming up, education was not that important. Mostly finding a job was important. But you find you get a proper education, you can get a good career, or you can even start your own business. So for me, it's laying that foundation, whether it be education, knowledge, resource, whatever you want to call it, but it's laying that foundation so that others can springboard, so that your kids, your sons and daughters, don't have to lay a foundation for someone else to come up from. You already have that foundation laid. So your kids should not have to lay a foundation. They should build from what you've already provided for them. So it's resources and knowledge and experience and
Well,
guidance. You can also say guidance as well.
yeah. You know what? I'm gonna add a little bit more into that. Um, when you say knowledge, adding information or giving information to your son or daughter that you didn't receive to later on. And I
Absolutely.
think it's important to share that information. To me, as soon as possible, like when they are mature enough to understand it. If you ain't know nothing about the stock market and you know it now, teach it to them.
Absolutely.
If you ain't know nothing about school or how to look for college, show them. Whatever skills that you learn that you didn't know when you was growing up, that you learn as an adult, you need to show them as soon as possible
Yep.
and drill that stuff in them. That's also being a provider of information.
I agree 100%.
Okay. That's going to wrap it up for this topic today. Next week, the topic will be: would you raise your daughter or show your daughter how to be submissive in this dating world? Or how would you show or teach your son how to be alpha or beta in this dating world? What you got to say about that so far? Or a little hint, little teaser if you have any.
I like the questions. The first one, yes, you do teach them different, you do raise them different. Uh, it pains me to say you have to teach your daughter to be a traditional woman. It pains me. But as a father, it's also helping your daughter to be able to pick the right man that's not going to take advantage of her. She should want to pick someone like her father. So you have to be the example of what she's looking for in the future.
Oh, we gonna definitely tap on that, man. We gonna definitely tap on that. Well, until next time, I am Jude.
And I am Antoine Miller.
See you later.